Kip, it's good to see you. I was going to start this conversation by saying instead of Kip, Mr. Grumpy Pants, but well, we'll just say it. Hello, Mr. Grumpy Pants. How are you today?
I'm good,
Are you?
Dick. You know what? Yeah, maybe in a little bit of a lull. I don't know. I get these. I get in these moods. I think you've in past episodes you've called it your entrepreneur PMS.
PMS. It's exactly what it is, man. I don't know if it's entrepreneurship or fatherhood or just men being a man in general or what it is, but yeah, I'm on this weird cycle. I don't know if it's 6 weeks. I got to figure out my cycle. Maybe it's 6 weeks. Maybe it's 4 weeks. I don't know. Maybe it's like on cycle with my wife. I don't know. Maybe it's like one of those things where you guys start to, find the cycle together. I don't know what it is, but
that's true.
Sounds like that's
let me know what you find out.
Yeah.
Let me know what you find out. I'd be interested in learning more.
What did we call it last couple weeks ago? A little bitch syndrome. It might be that too. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. It's a sense of overwhelm.
Yeah.
And just things aren't progressing or I'm not getting things done. And it's stacking up. That's usually what it is for me.
Is it work stuff, family stuff, combination of both? What is it?
Everything. Yeah. Everything. It's combination of both. Yeah. Like I could really honestly, and it's in my head, but I could have like a 20-page document of stuff I need to get done, like it's insane, so
it's in the back of your head. Do you write it out? Do you list it out?
Well, the ones I need to plan this week, I write out, but but I have like the things on that list are, I need to rearrange those tools in that toolbox. It's getting chaotic. You know what I'm saying? It's that right. List, but it's not important, but it's like, it's nagging at me. So
it's important. All those little things are important. And even if it's seemingly insignificant, they start to stack up and add up. I definitely hear where you're coming from on that. Yeah,
totally. So tell me, how have I not read Four Agreements yet?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like I was running yesterday. I had to get 10 miles in and I'm like, I need a book or, I need because the last thing I needed is to think more, I was kind of like, I need to
want to get
not
out of
think
that space.
Yeah. And so I read that or listened to that book while I was running and I'm like, this book is awesome.
It's so good.
Like I really like it. Yeah. Yeah, the run was long enough.
Fast you run.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Now everyone's doing the calculations. They're like, only a 12-minute mile.
Like 12-minute miles. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's a good book.
Almost done. But yeah, I mean, it was profound. I'm like,
it's a good book. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. One thing I would say, for what it's worth, is I've had to be very careful when I don't need or want to think to put self-development stuff in my earbuds.
Yeah. You mentioned that sometimes where you're kind of like, no, I need to clear my mind. I don't need more stuff. Right.
Yeah. But it is good. It's a powerful book. I can't remember the agreements right offhand. Do you remember what they are? We could look them up while we're questions.
One is honoring your word, which has a deeper root of integrity. I think there's an honor your word to yourself, but regardless, I was like nerding out on it. I was like, man, I need to get a paper version of this book so I can just beat it up. But honor your word. Don't make assumptions. Don't take it personal. And the last one, do your best.
Yep.
Look at that.
And the one that you talked about with honor your word, it's actually, I think I'm looking at it here, the correct verbiage they're using is impeccable with your word, which is
impeccable.
Similar, but I think an important distinction.
Well, mostly when he defines or breaks down the word impeccable and you're like, oh, that's pretty profound. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I think some people would be thrown off by the like black magic and white magic. And you know what I'm saying? Like the words that he chose to use to describe things, I could see it. Maybe it would throw people off a little bit, but man, it was profound wisdom. I really enjoyed it. And it was kind of what I needed too, because I just got in a fight with my wife right before I went for that run.
There we go. Here we go. Like, now we're getting to the root of it.
Assumptions. Yeah. I'm like, all these assumptions, honoring my word, doing my best. I'm like, oh my dear Lord, I need to get home and apologize.
Yeah.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah, we need to do a review of that book. I know a bunch of guys have read it, so yeah, that's definitely higher on the list. And one thing that I haven't talked a whole lot about, but yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah.
Cool, man. All right,
Yeah.
brother. Well, you'll be the grumpy one today. I'll be the cheery, happy, empathetic one. We'll switch the roles here a little bit and we'll get after some of these questions.
Am I usually I'm usually the happy one?
You're usually the happy, fluffy bullshit guy. And I just cut through all that crap.
Superficial guy. Yeah. Yeah. Got it.
No, not superficial. You're just, never mind.
Yeah.
You make a good combo. So maybe we'll just switch things up here a little bit.
Copy. All right. Shall we?
Yes. Okay. Actually, on the superficial thought, I don't want you to feel like you're being.
Oh, no. You don't have to pander to me because you're afraid I'm.
I'm afraid. I'm not afraid of you. I mean, on the mats, maybe a little bit. I will, but I do want to make this distinction because I think the guys would agree with me on this.
Okay.
You're not the superficial one. You're the thoughtful one. I'm the guy who's like, what's your problem? Get over your crap. Yeah, and you're way more thoughtful about it.
Yeah, but and we both know the pros and cons of both, right? I mean, sometimes it just do the work. That is the answer. Yeah. Like, stop being a little bitch, right?
That's easier said than done, kid. Easier said than done.
Well, what's
podcast on Friday?
Contact me if we want to overanalyze things and never take action. I'm your guy.
Perfect. Good. Well, that's why we do
let's
overthink it together. All right, let's get to it.
All right. So our questions from today are from Instagram. You can follow Mr. Michler on Instagram at Ryan Michler. That's Michler. I'm assuming I don't need to spell Ryan for you people. All right. First question.
Some of these new age names, they spell them like RYAAIN or RYON. But I'm of the old school where you spell names correctly. You don't add extra Y's and Z's and X's and everything else. You just spell it the correct way.
There you go. All right. Tyler Rivers. If you had to give a young man, let's say 21 and below, one piece of advice for when they take that journey of being independent, capable men and leave home to pursue their dreams, what would it be?
Go explore the world. Really. I mean, we've talked about this before, Kip. Just go out and explore, see everything, say yes to everything, go on adventures, take some risks, just travel, try new things, whatever you can do to get as many experiences under your belt as possible. Now's the time, because I'm telling you, it doesn't get any easier. It's not an excuse not to do it later. You should still be taking risks. You should still be saying yes to some things. There still should be some adventures. But when you're young, it's the freest and easiest and most convenient time in the rest of your life that you will have to do it. So if you have an opportunity to tour the world, if you have an opportunity to try something new, like somebody calls you up and says, hey, let's go skydiving, like just experience it all, put it all under your belt, because you're going to draw upon all of those experiences as you get older, because they're going to translate into other facets of your life that are more mature, maybe you'd call it, where you start having a family, dating women, seriously dating women, I should say, having children, advancing in your career. You'll draw upon those past experiences. If you're boring, you don't have any experiences, you've never taken any risks, it's pretty much how the rest of your life is probably going to go. So get it taken care of.
That's depressing.
No, it's not. It's actually, maybe it is if you've resigned to that. Like, I'm just a boring guy. But it doesn't have to be that way. Nobody's telling you you have to be a boring guy. Nobody's saying that you shouldn't.
Just the probability is higher. Yeah.
Right. Because you've conditioned yourself. You've set the precedent for being that kind of individual. So set a precedent for adventure, risk-taking, new information, new ideas, new experiences. And that is the precedent you're setting for the rest of your life, which will serve you significantly better than the alternative.
Would you give the same advice for trying out jobs as part of that experience? Like, if you have interest in these certain things, like, get in the industry, try it. Like, this is the time to just try to figure those kind of things out at the same time.
One of the things that I was really impressed with in the dental community, and there's probably other facets of the medical community who do this. So when I was doing financial planning, I focused heavily on the medical community and more specifically working with dentists. And one of the practices that aspiring dentists have is they go shadow an actual dentist.
Hmm.
So they'll go shadow that individual. They'll do work with that individual. They'll see what it's all about, and they'll make their decision. Should I go to dental school? Because you're going to spend $200,000 to $500,000 on getting through your schooling. So you better make sure that this is actually something you want to do. So the concept of shadowing, I think, is a very important practice. And if you have at age 21 or 18, just young like that, any inkling of interest in something, you probably ought to shadow somebody who's doing it, explore it, see if it's something that you find value in. Don't pin yourself to it. Just explore it with an open mind to see if it is something you enjoy or not. And if it's something you don't enjoy, listen to, I don't care if you call it yourself or God or intuition or positive spirits or evil spirits, whatever you were saying about, and
white magic. Yeah.
That's what's funny. Everybody. So you and I are both spiritual, believe in God. And so I talk with a lot of people who are atheists. They don't believe in God or agnostic. And yet they'll use the same concepts. They'll just call it something different, like the universe or black and white magic or the muse or whatever. Like
karma.
Karma. They'll use the same
energy
ideas. They just put a different word to it. So call it whatever you want. I don't care. But listen to it. Accept it. And if you have some interest, follow it. If you feel like, hey, this doesn't feel right, that's probably something that should be listened to. It's not the only thing you should listen to, but the only consideration. But I think we often undervalue our intuition. And then we make decisions and we're like, well, I shouldn't do that, or I shouldn't get out of this career. Let's take an attorney, for example, because I personally know attorneys who hate
being attorneys. I think that's all of them.
Yeah. And they've known it for a very long time, and yet they haven't done anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the things in that it's whatever stuck in my head, right? That I really liked about that 4 agreements is he starts that book off about how we have these social constructs, right? These social agreements that we fall into, based upon how we're raised and based upon fear and judgment of others. And he really talks about being a pickle. What's the word I'm looking for?
A pickle. I think you were going to say applicable. Is that what you were going for?
Well, no, it wasn't that. What agreement was it? Well, anyhow, he was talking
impeccable.
About but it doesn't, that's not the one. Well, that is the word I was looking for, but it's not that agreement. Anyhow, he was talking about how there's like being true to yourself has a sense of wildness to it, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of back to what you're saying. It's built into you, these things that you want to do that we don't act upon because of fear or judgments or social constructs. And part of finding heaven on earth or heaven within yourself is to like do those things, to rise above the fear and actually take action. Right.
Yeah.
I really like that. So these next 3 questions are kind of related. They're related, but they're kind of related to this one. So I'll just read the 3 really quick because I've kind of grouped them together here. So,
all right, but
C. Nelson,
Kip, hold on 1 second.
Go ahead.
I got to make a switch on my internet real quick because I think we're having some. Oh no, I think we're good. Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So C. Nelson, his question: I'm 29. I have no idea what I want with my life and my career. I can't figure out my passion in life. Marco Abalas, he says, how can I find my purpose? Been following what society said, school, degree, job, and marriage. I got lucky with the marriage thing, but I don't feel fulfilled. And then Baz T, his question, what would you advise someone that doesn't know what his passion is and what he should strive to achieve?
Yeah, so I extracted 3 words from those 3 questions: passion, purpose, and fulfillment.
Yeah.
And the way that I hear these gentlemen asking these questions is that they're looking at it as some tangible object that at some point they just trip over or stumble across or find, or somebody reveals it to them or something.
Yeah.
The reason I think we think this is because of pop culture and specifically the entertainment industry. Because if you watch any movie and you look at the hero's journey, for example, I think it's Joseph Campbell who originally explained the hero's journey. But if you look at the hero's journey, it's an individual who's struggling to find something or struggling to create something for himself. a mentor is introduced into his life that reveals something about the tangible world and the physical situation he's in, but it's a metaphor for his deeper struggles and desires. And then within a 2-hour window, the mentor reveals it. He goes through a little bit of hardship, and then he finds it, and then he lives happily ever after.
Yeah,
in 2 hours, with very little context. So we've begun to believe that, well, I'm 29, I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm this, I'm that. I don't know. I don't know what my passion is. I don't know what well, that's because life isn't like the movies. And it isn't something that you'll miraculously stumble across at some point, or some Gandalf-like figure will reveal it to you. It's something that you have to develop and articulate over time. So here's what's really interesting and fascinating to me is guys will say, oh, I just don't know my passion or my purpose, or I'm not fulfilled. Okay, well, tell me, when is the last time you did something new? Tell me when the last time is you took a risk. Tell me the last adventure you went on. Tell me the last time you said yes to something you would normally not say yes to. Tell me anything different about your life today than it has been over the past, let's say, decade. Well, nothing, because I've got kids, and, my job requires this, and I've got bills to pay. Yeah, exactly. So what you're saying is you want to find your passion and your purpose, but you want to continue to do the same shit that you've been doing for 3 decades. Like, what makes you think zero risk, zero new input, zero new feedback, zero new experiences? I don't like this quote, it's just overused, but it's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. All right, how do I find my passion? Well, when's the last time you took a risk? Well, I can't do that. Okay, well, then just be content with not finding your passion. I would say that I'm very passionate and purpose-driven and fulfilled regarding what we're doing here with Order of Man. But it would have been very easy for me not to do this. I was a fairly successful financial advisor. The business was growing. I was helping people. I was serving people. I found meaning in it. Ultimately, I knew there was something that was lacking and missing. I had conversations with a good friend of mine, and I said, I'm not going to be doing this forever, because I acknowledged that it wasn't it for me. And he knew that. He saw that in me. But I had to take a risk. I had to jump out. I had to start something new. I had to put myself in a new environment, new situations. I had to learn from other people. I had to hire coaches and mentors. And now, through the last 6 years, we've developed something that is very purpose-driven for me. But it took one step after the other of exploring doubt and uncertainty and unknowns, and taking risks, and having things pan out, and not always having things pan out, and losing money, and traveling across the country, and moving my family here. That's how you find it. You go discover it, you articulate it, you uncover it, you take one step and explore that realm. And if it doesn't work, you turn and you explore this other realm, and gradually and eventually you'll find something that I don't actually think that one day you'll realize, let me think about how to say this. I don't think one day you'll say, that's it, Eureka, I found it.
I found it.
I think more accurately, what'll happen is you'll wake up one day and you'll think, holy cow, I actually really enjoy my life. But you didn't even realize that there was like one pivotal moment in time that everything changed. It just gradually changed through consistent action, taking calculated, intelligent risks, and living life in his adventure.
Yeah. Well, it's a step back, but I think it's valuable to mention. You're talking about, because of entertainment and whatnot, we have this false understanding of how this works. I think the other part, and let me know if you agree, is that there's always the right and the wrong, right? And I think some people fall into this when they think about marriage, for instance. It's like, well, I need to find the right one. And I think we add that same definition onto things like this, like, what is the passion, the right one versus the not right one? It's like, no, actually, right now for you, it's Order of Man. I actually think it could be probably 100 different things that you could feel fully fulfilled doing and find purpose and fulfillment in. It just happened to kind of be Order of Man. And I think guys need to let go of that idea of the thing, the right thing, and realize that there's a great many things. And you might pivot midway, and you might adjust, and
you should. Actually,
new opportunities will present themselves as you find fulfillment in life. So,
well, And I know the guys that have listened for any amount of time already know this, but I had another podcast prior to Order of Man. And it would have been very easy for me to say, well, that podcast was a failure. No, it wasn't a failure. I stopped doing it, but I cut my teeth podcasting through 20, 25 episodes doing this other thing. If I wouldn't have done that, even though I stopped doing that after about 3 or 4 months, you wouldn't be listening to this today.
Yeah.
And so what we end up doing, and you're talking about this, is we present ourselves false dichotomies. Like it's either this or this, black or white, yes or no. And I believe that your passion will be found in the gray areas, the third option, if you will. And let's be very, very careful of the right or wrong, like you said, and painting ourselves into false dichotomies. There are other options in other scenarios. This is one thing we run across against when people say things like, should I stay with this job and make more money, or should I follow my passion? Well, actually, that's a false dichotomy. There are other options. I'm following my passion right now. I'm not following it. I'm discovering it. I'm developing it. I'm building it. That's the better way for me to say it. And I'm also making more money in my life than I have at any other point in my life. That's the third option.
Yeah.
It's there. Totally. You just have to uncover it and work towards it.
Yeah. Yeah. You see that with marriages, right? That's the typical marriage thing. Is it better for our kids to be in a house of contention and misery, or for us to get divorced? It's like, no, just stay married and don't be contentious and make it miserable.
Yeah.
There's
also
choices.
Is she the one? That's another thing. Is she the one? No, she's not the one, because there is no one. My wife is not the one. I am not her one. Now, I believe that we'll be together forever, but it isn't just one. I have to make sure that I continue to maintain, it's probably not the best word to use, but maintain this relationship. I have to invest in it. I have to invest in her. I have to invest in myself. I have to be more capable. I don't want her to outgrow me, so I have to keep up. She doesn't want me to outgrow her, so she has to keep up. It's not about the one. It's about the one I choose to be with. I'm choosing this. She's choosing this. Yeah. And let's make sure we make the most of it.
Yeah. Like it. All right. Carol 34, Mr. Mickler, do you drink alcohol? If no, why not?
It's been a long time. It's been a really long time. I remember just getting wasted all the time, right out of high school and college, just all the time. And I didn't like it. I didn't like feeling like that. I didn't like being like that, and decided to stop drinking. And then coincidentally, or maybe not coincidentally, I met my wife several months later, and that's it. That was it for me.
Yeah. That's funny. And it's interesting how life, if we're paying attention, life can really help us just naturally kind of learn things on our own. I remember I was a senior in high school, and I moved a lot when I was a kid. And I remember visiting some old friends. I was a senior. They were having their end of the year like dance, and they're like, "Hey, Kip, you should come back in town and come visit us." And went back in town, and about 3 a.m. in the morning, I just got in my car and I drove home. And it was a result of just this horrible taste in my mouth of like, you guys are going nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. Like the party went south real quick. I mean, it was crazy. And I was just, and it just, instead of like drawing me in, it did the complete opposite. I was just like, whoa, I don't want any part of this, you know? And I said, you know, I love those guys. And I said my goodbyes and went home, you know, in the middle of the night. And the same thing happened when I went to college. I had a roommate he was a Jehovah's Witness. It was great. It was a Mormon, a Jehovah's Witness, and an atheist. We're all roommates. It was.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's
we had the
awesome.
most interesting conversations about religion.
I bet.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But regardless, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses don't drink. And my roommate just had this freedom, right? Got into college. He was drinking all the time. And in 6 months, I watched him become an alcoholic. He'd get up in the morning, pound a couple beers for breakfast before going to school. Like, and his life fell apart right in front of me.
Yeah.
And I was just like, just reassurance of like, yeah, you know what? Not necessary. You don't need for that in my life. And so I've had life kind of teach me some lessons where I was just like, you know what? I'm okay. You know,
but you also, like you said, you also listened to it, because we hear those things, we hear those lessons and get into those experiences, and then we don't listen to it. And then we also complain about how our life is turning out.
Yeah.
Well, you're not listening again to the spirit or light magic or the universe. You're not listening. Listen and apply, and your life will turn out better.
Yeah.
I heard something on Twitter, or saw something on Twitter this morning, and the guy said, the quality of your life will be determined by the decisions you make. And at first I said, well, no shit.
That's the first thing I just thought. I'm like, really?
That's a dumb thing to say. But then I was like, wait, let me just read it again. And it's overly simplistic, of course, but it's also so profound. The quality of your life will be determined by your decisions. So make better decisions. Exactly. Yeah. It sounds so dumb on the surface, but it's so profound. And we don't think about it. Oh, you know, the one beer. Oh, the one time I step out on my wife. Oh, you know, that one time I cheat on my exercise, or I cheat a client, or I steal this thing, or I speak ill of someone. Just one. All of it. It's all of the decisions combined. That's why I have a hard time resonating with the questions that are like what I have dubbed the one thing questions.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you wish you know? What's the one lesson you wish you learned?
Little things. Yeah.
Exactly. I understand the intent of the question. It's just really hard for me to resonate, because it's never about one thing, and never has been one thing. If it was just one thing, how easy would that be? All I have to do is make one good decision.
Just one thing.
That's easy. All of us have done that and made one good decision. So clearly it's not just one thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's, you know, back to the book I was reading on yesterday. It's like, it's the little decisions. You know, what is your word? How often do you give your word? Mm-hmm. All the time, mm-hmm. right? You're creating all the time. We're creating this conversation. When I say I'll be home at a certain time, when I tell myself I'm going to get my ass out of bed at 5:30 and I don't, like, it's all those little things. And not to beat up on the guys that drink alcohol, but like, how often are guys asking, why do I feel this is necessary? Why am I drinking? Do you even ask that question?
Probably not.
And a lot of us may find out that why are we? Because we're sedating ourselves, because we're avoiding something, because we don't want to have to deal with something. We're trying to escape. And this isn't a beat up on alcohol, but it's the same thing of like, well, why am I going to watch this TV show instead for 4 hours instead of do some stuff that I know I should do? Because I don't want to deal with it. Why do I sleep in? Because I don't want to deal with it. You know, what are all the things that we're avoiding constantly in the little decisions that we make? Yep.
I think that's exactly right.
I stole that sedation from you. That's one of the
I stole it from somebody else. So it's cool.
A Micklerism.
Everybody's stolen everything from everybody else. So it's all good. There should be no more quotes on anything.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, when you were talking about being impeccable with your word, and when you mess up, because you are going to mess up, we all mess up, fix it.
Yeah.
Don't ignore it. Right. Yeah. Restore. That's a great way to say it. Restore your integrity. I actually really like that phrase. Restore your integrity, because it can be restored. It just is going to require some humility, some eating crow, and some better decisions moving forward.
Totally. And what I love about the idea of restoring our integrity, if you don't mind me riffing on this a little bit, because I think it's just profound, is from a religious perspective for the Christians listening, it's the atonement, right? Like that's how you restore your integrity
process.
Exactly. And what's great about the repentance process is, for some, and I don't want to downplay the idea of the atonement, but let's just assume it's a story. What's great about the concept of an atonement is it makes it believable. It allows someone to say, you know what? Despite my action, I can actually move beyond it. Like it gives some context to the idea of making a mistake and being anew. It adds more definition to it than just, hey, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, and I move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, no, I think you're right. I also think I really like the idea, the concept of story, because yes, it makes it, I think you said more, did you say believable? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. It also makes it more palpable. And it's easier to understand concepts that would, I think, in a lot of ways be difficult to grasp if you didn't have the stories to tell. I've really had to learn this because I tend to be so black and white, even during presenting. I would be so black and white, and here's the data, here's the statistics to support it, here's why. And I was never very good at telling stories. And I would get up on stage and I would give what I thought was a great presentation, and it just wouldn't land. It wouldn't resonate with anybody. And somebody came to me and said, you really need to incorporate some stories. And I started to get better at this as I wrote my book. You really need to incorporate your own personal stories into what you're doing. And as I started to do that on stage, more and more people resonated. More and more people came up to me with their own personal stories and shared what they were going through, because I opened myself up to share my stories. This is as old as man himself. Yeah. So stories are very, very valuable.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Jimmy Bryant, Portillo, 1989. In a marriage, when do you think it's right to call it quits? When you and your wife have different goals in life and now want different things in life? And I find that interesting. Different goals in life and different things in life.
Yeah, well, we all want to have different goals and different things.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep bees. I don't want to grow a garden. I don't want to be the one who actually sits down every single day and teaches my children their curriculums. Like, I don't want to do that stuff. I don't want to cook dinner. Like there's a lot that she does that I'm just not even remotely interested in. And there's a lot that I do. She doesn't want a career. She doesn't want the attention that comes with doing what it is we're doing here. Okay. Does that mean that we shouldn't be together? No, we have different goals, but we're aligned in a common purpose. This is a really tough question because, again, this is almost a one thing type question.
Yeah.
I don't know. If she says this phrase, then it's over. If she does this one thing, then it's so. Even take fidelity issues. There's a lot of men who will say, if she ever cheats on me, it's over. I can certainly appreciate that thought.
Yeah. But
there's a lot of nuance too. There's a lot of personality.
How were you showing up in the marriage, and what's her past? And I don't know. I mean,
there's just a lot. So I can't say it's this one thing that if this happens or you guys have this conversation, then it's over. I would work towards making amends, rectifying the situations, humbling yourself, talking about the issues that you're dealing with, trying to figure out if there's some sort of commonality, or even not trying to figure out, but creating some sort of commonality between your goals and objectives. You made a commitment to her. She made a commitment to you. So you have a commitment to try to work this out. Is there a point at which her goals are completely different than yours where it's not able to be reconciled? Probably. Yeah, there probably is a point at which that's the case.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what it is. Well, here's a story, since we were talking about stories. When my wife and I went through our separation 11 or 12 years ago, most of the people in my life told me it was over. They said, Ryan, it's over. Like she's leaving, she's moving on. Like it's done. The marriage is over. And they were coming from a good place. They weren't being mean-spirited. They were trying to help me. Like, now it's time for you to get over it. I had neighbors and friends and family members. It's over. It's over. It's over. But deep down inside, there was a little part of me that said, it's not over. Keep working, keep fighting, keep developing, keep growing. Just keep going. It's not over. And I never believed that it was over until that one moment that I talked about where I thought it was over. And that was kind of the pinnacle of or at least the beginning of the growth in both of us. But I would just say, always keep fighting for your marriage. Just one more thing. What's one more thing I could do to help? What's one more thing I can do to improve myself? What's one more conversation that I can have? And there may come a point in time where you reach that end of the line, but I'm telling you what, being married has been the most important decision that I've ever made. Doing order of man is the most important one of the most important decisions, maybe a close second. And I would never want to look back and think that I didn't give all of the attention to that thing that was one of the single most important decisions in my life. I would want to look back, even if it didn't work out, with a clean conscience.
Yeah.
Knowing that, man, that really sucked and that was dark and it was hard, but my conscience is clean because I did everything I knew to do. I tried new things. I pushed further than I wanted to go. And it wasn't enough in that case, but at least your conscience is clean.
Totally. Well, and it's interesting because, as I got divorced, and maybe I've expressed this. I actually dated my wife for a while. In fact,
you're saying before you got married? Is that what you're saying?
No, we got divorced.
Okay.
And I'm saying this in a mean-spirited way. I probably shouldn't say it this way. But if she was like, we got divorced, and if she was like, hey, I think we should work things out, I'd be like, okay. And that happened numerous times for almost 5 years. I dredged myself through, and I want to be really clear. It was the hardest thing. It felt like I was getting divorced probably like 20 times over in a 5-year period. Because, by the way, you can't really date your ex-wife without it feeling like you just got married again, or you're still married. And then if it doesn't work out, then it's like this horrible experience. You know what I mean? It was a mess. And I had a lot of people that loved and supported me was like, Kip, what are you doing?
Yes.
Like, let it go. But here's the deal. It was the same thing, Ryan. I was like, I have to give it a chance. I have to know that I gave it a chance. And it's really interesting if we bring religion to it. I don't think the Lord is ever going to go, oh, you know what, Kip? You lived a great life. Dude, you're a sucker. People took advantage of you. You gave too much empathy. You tried too much. Like you should have had more spine and blew them off. It's like, no, he's going to say, you know what? You were willing to suffer a little bit just to make sure.
Yeah.
It's society that was saying I was a sucker for giving it one more chance. And it was interesting is I kept giving it a chance because I thought there was a chance, because I thought it was worth it. And it was so refreshing for me, where after 5 years of doing this, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a defining moment for me where it clicked. And I remember talking with her and I'm like, yeah, it's over. But it took me a long time to get to that point. But I knew in my heart, my soul, like, yeah, this isn't, like, the pendulum has swung in a direction where this isn't good for you or me. You know what I mean? And I realized there wasn't a probability of that working. And I feel okay about that. Right. But it looked crazy, for that time.
You said it was mean. You said the way you're going to say it was mean-spirited, but I didn't hear anything mean-spirited.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, it's because I didn't say what was in my mind. What I was going to say is,
how is that mean-spirited?
Yeah, no, whenever, because some of it was, if she was dating a guy and they broke up, she would feel lonely. And it was like, I was a booty call, or,
yeah.
You know what I mean? I was the fallback a little bit, So not that she didn't have probably still feelings for me, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get it.
But from the outside looking in, that it looked like I was just, the puppy dog waiting on the corner,
right,
to get picked up. So.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know if we answered that question, and we just talked about it a lot, but it's a tough situation, and you're going to go back and forth. But
yeah. Oh, I did have one thing. What are you assuming? Like when I read that question, right? Like we don't have the same goals, and we want different things in life. Like, what are all the assumptions you're making about her and about her feelings, and be careful, right? Because that's your creation, is your assumptions, and maybe there's a breakdown of communication, and you need to be more open, ask more questions, and fearlessly communicate with her.
And by the way, relationships take sacrifice. And the nature of sacrifice is that you have to give up something important.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't important to you, then it really wouldn't be a sacrifice, and the relationship wouldn't mean anything, or it wouldn't mean as much. The nature of sacrifice is that it has to be something important. And so what have you given up? What are you willing to give up? What is she willing to give up? Maybe she's not. Well, that's a pretty good indicator. But there has to be some sort of sacrifice. I'm not saying that each of you should sacrifice all your goals and dreams and ambitions, but there has to be some sort of sacrifice to be together. Otherwise, it's not going to be valuable to either of you.
Yeah, because it's never going to always be convenient. So
of course, absolutely. Yeah. All right, let's drive on.
Okay, all right. Instagram names X Kovanix. Do you believe the justice system is salvageable?
Like what part of the justice system? Are you saying the courts? Are you saying, like, I don't know. Are you saying it's hard for me to answer that question. Yes. Can things be corrected? Sure. Can problems be rooted out and addressed and dealt with? Absolutely. It's going to take honorable people. I'm just speaking broadly because it's such a broad question, but it's going to take honorable men who have values, who believe in individual responsibility, who honor the Constitution, who honor individuals as individuals, who believe in individual rights, and doing the right thing. So the answer is yes, it can, but it's just going to take a lot of work. Anything can be corrected. It's just going to take either or both a lot of pain and or a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and are you talking about police reform? Are you talking about the criminal system? Are you talking about the prison system? Like, there's just so many elements of it. It's hard for me to say, yes, we need to do X, Y, and Z for this one thing, because I don't know what you're referring to.
But I think your answer is applicable to all of them. It takes people rising up, doing the right thing, regardless of the social consequences. Like they need to be willing to rise up and be truthful. Yeah.
Because what I see, my interpretation of it is that what we see regarding the justice system from the top to the bottom, from policing to law enforcement to the judicial system to prison systems, we're being told something that is not true. And it's being filtered through large and legacy media. And they're painting the narrative that they want to paint. So we have to be very, very careful of interpreting that as absolute truth with a capital T, because it isn't, which means that we need to get other information. We need to hear from other people. We need to do the research ourselves so we can take this spotty reporting and journalism and backfill it with the facts that aren't being presented to us, the data that supports or disproves what it is that's being presented to us.
And just because everyone believes something doesn't necessarily make that truth.
Or the more that I say it doesn't make it true either.
Exactly. We have a tendency just to pander to the masses, right? Address the social issue.
Well, and I think most people, I actually think all people are extremely lazy. Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. Even the most successful people. Naturally, we're all lazy, and we have to fight against that. And I would say that the majority of the population has not done a good job at that. And so we look at an article, we look at a headline, we look at what somebody told us. And as long as it sounds like it could be, then we just accept it as truth. And we make our decisions based off of inaccuracies because we're lazy or because we want something, which is greed.
Yeah. Or it's fear. And we got to understand something and we're too lazy to actually dive into it. So let's just pigeonhole it. Let's put it in a box and, okay, now I understand. It's like, actually, no, it's way more complex than that.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to do some critical thinking. Yeah. Yeah. I was going to think of a quote that I really like. And apparently I don't like it that much because I can't remember it.
It'll come to you. Or not.
All right.
It might not.
Next question. Malt Rocket, what's the difference between being a company man versus being a doormat? When should you draw the line between the two? I've never heard of this analogy, a company man.
I like, why would you even want to be a company man? That's not good either to me, to be a company man. I mean, I know it means that you're going to sacrifice and there's some loyalty and you're going to do what needs to be done for the company, but that comes at a price. Your own well-being, your own integrity. Like, I don't want to be a company man.
Oh, like regardless of your integrity, company comes first, kind of thing.
That's when I hear somebody who's he's a company man. He's a company man.
Yeah,
he's going to do what's right by the company before anything else. But that isn't accurate to me either. That isn't the best way to operate your life. Now, I think loyalty is important. I think working hard for an organization that has served you and has a contract with you and has agreed to work with you and train you and get you trained and invest in you, I think that's important.
Yeah.
But I have no allegiance to companies. I'll support them as long as I feel that are worth supporting. I'll work with them as long as I feel like their values and the way they operate their business is in alignment with mine. But I have no sense of ongoing loyalty just for the sake of being loyal to that particular organization or company. Because companies change, the dynamic changes, their values change, and that's not always going to be in alignment with me. We have this really weird thing, and I think this is old school mentality of just, well, they've really invested in me and this and that. I'll tell you, when I was doing my financial planning practice, I started with a company that offered me a lot. They offered me a lot of training, support. They gave me an office space, a remote office space in Southern Utah when the majority of the company, 95% of it, was in Northern Utah. And in exchange, I was giving up a percentage of my commission because I was working with this organization, which was a pretty good deal at the time.
Yeah.
And that was the agreement. And then I began to realize as I trained and developed and got better and improved and built my clientele and my client base, and I saw what else was out there, that the deal was no longer favorable for me. It was favorable for them. They were paying again for my office, for some support, and for some training. And then I looked at the commission I was giving up. I'm like, I can take care of my own office. I can give my own support. And at that point in time, I had a decision to make. Do I be a company man because they supported me and did all this stuff? Or do I go out and start my own thing? And actually, I struggled with that decision because I said, well, they supported me. They trained me. They this, they that. Yeah. And I had some people in my life who I thought highly of who said, yes, they did those things as an agreement that you would split your commission with the organization. And you honored your end of the deal. They trained you, you split your commission. But that contract starts over every single day. It's the same thing with any other employment. You do X, Y, and Z, and the company agrees to pay you for that work you did. And then when you clock out for the day, the agreement's over. Now, by default, it starts over again tomorrow, but there's no sense of ongoing obligation on either of your parts. You're not obligated to stay with them just because you've gotten better and they're the ones who trained you. No, it was for that day only. So again, I reiterate, I think it's important. I think loyalty is important. I think supporting an organization that has supported you, that you believe in, that your values aligned, I think that's important. But I'm not going to do that at the expense of my own well-being, my own sanity, or my own integrity.
Yeah.
And that's where the doormat thing comes into play. I'm not going to let you railroad me. I'm not going to let you use guilt as a pair of handcuffs to keep me here. I'm not going to let you abuse this relationship. I'm not going to let you treat me like garbage or not value my ideas and my input. Look, you believed enough in me to support me and train me, and now you don't. No, not playing that game. I'm out.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't quite think it's company man or doormat. I actually don't think either of them are going to serve you well and over the long haul.
Yeah. And this is good advice for the company. Like, think through it right now. It's like, hey, if you're a business owner, what do you need to be doing on the company side where your employees feel invested? And right. You better create an environment where they're self-directed, where you're empowering them, where you're constantly providing value so they can be fully invested in what the company's about, because they should bail if you're taking advantage of them. and you're trying to, bulldoze them, or, you know what I mean? Coerce them into doing things that they don't want to do,
One thing you'll hear from organizations, they'll say, well, we trained them and now they're leaving us. Yeah, that's right.
That's a risk that you take as an employer. Yeah.
That's the risk. So you could do one of two things. You could just deal with that, knowing that that's how it's going to play out, or you could give that individual an incentive to stay with you. And it has to be an increasing incentive. As they get better,
they're worth more.
They're worth more to you. And if you don't like that, don't have employees, because that's how it works. Or don't train them, and that's obviously not going to serve you.
Yeah, totally. Well, and that's not the employee you want anyway.
Of course not.
You don't want an employee that's not bought into what you're doing as an organization, that's not invested. I mean, think about the Iron Council, for instance. If you had a bunch of guys that were just strictly doing what you told them to do, but they weren't committed to what we were doing, it would show up. It would show up in the work that they do. The quality of work that they would provide as team leaders or anything else would be diminished.
Well, I used to take it really
invested.
Well, I used to take it really personal when somebody would leave the Iron Council. I could take it really personal.
Yeah.
And then I stopped doing that, because it's not personal at all. Of course, obviously, going back to the 4 agreements, don't take anything personally. Yeah. And I don't, when people say, hey, I want to leave the Iron Council, I don't question them. I don't try to convince them to stay around. I mean, I might say something like, hey, why, if they're a member I know and I'm familiar with and they've been around, I'm like, hey, do you mind sharing with me why you're leaving? But I'm not going to try to convince somebody to stick around who isn't interested in being there for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's fine. And you know what I do now? Genuinely wish them well on their path. Hey, I don't want to be a member of the Iron Council for this reason. Hey, you know what? I understand it's not for everybody. Maybe you'll find something that's more suited for you, or maybe not, and you're just not interested anymore. But for whatever reason, whatever thing it is, I just want to wish you well. If it ever in the future you feel like you want to come back, let me know. We'd embrace you with open arms. But in the meantime, I hope you succeed. I genuinely believe that. And that's a more mature response to it. That's how everybody should be behaving. Companies, employees, organizations, memberships, et cetera, et cetera.
Totally. Stephen Joraz. Hopefully you know what this is. Ryan, I'm torn between taking the leap, joining RCMP, or continuing my pursuit of becoming a firefighter. I'm sort of on the crossroads. Both are careers I believe would suit me well. Do I just flip the coin? What are your thoughts? So maybe some strategy on 2 directions from our career path. Feel great about either one. How do you make that decision?
I mean, it's hard. Sometimes both answers are good. That's the hard part. And sometimes both answers are shitty too. Like, it goes both ways. It's never that, oh, that decision's easy, because then it's not a decision. There's no decision to be made. It's already been made. Decisions are always going to be either both crappy or both really good and present their own shares of opportunities. Here's what I would say. This isn't a direct answer, but I think this will give me some perspective.
Did you know what RCMP is?
I don't. I'm gonna Google that here in a second, or maybe you can Google,
I can
that
Google it while you're answering.
Yeah. Maybe I should, but I don't right offhand. Here's what I would suggest to give you some perspective. I want you to fast forward in your life 20 years. Now you're 20 years older. You're living life as you are 20 years from now. Looking back, which decision will you be glad that you made? It's a very, very powerful exercise in consciousness. Yeah. Fast forward 20 years, looking back, which decision will you be glad you made? Because at 20, when I'm 20, I'm going to be 20 years from now, I'm going to be 60 years old. As a 60-year-old, I'm going to have a lot more perspective and be valuing a lot more different things than I am now, because my kids are going to be out of the house. That's a big deal. Think about that alone. In 20 years, all my kids are gone. So which decision will I be happy I made in 20 years? The one that let me be around my kids the longest. And that might be enough right there. Yeah. But this is a very powerful exercise. If you do it correctly, you do it thoughtfully, you don't just like skip and like, oh, well, I think this one. No, like really ponder when you're 60 years old, what life is going to look like. My kids are going to be out of the house. Maybe my wife and I are dealing with maybe medical issues. I don't know. There's so many different options that might be happening in 20 years, but it's going to give me a perspective of the way I look at things now.
Yeah.
What did you figure out what it was?
Yeah, Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Oh yeah, of course I wouldn't know that. Of course. Americans only care about what's within our borders, so of course I wouldn't know that. But I appreciate your desire to serve in the police, or was it a firefighter? Is that what it was?
Yeah, firefighter, yeah, I mean, and police officer.
Yeah, again, both great career paths. I honor you and commend you for the decisions you're trying to make. They both sound like they're probably great opportunities, but try that exercise. See if that gives you some perspective you haven't considered before.
Okay. T-Dub, 19K. Something. Are you attending CME in Vegas?
CME. I don't know what CME is. we need to research these.
Yeah. I just assume you're connected. You know all this stuff. CME.
I mean, maybe I actually try to disconnect from it pretty well. What is it? It's probably some sort of mastermind or conference or something. I don't know. And maybe it's already happened. So either I did not go or I am not going, but those are the only two things that could happen. Did you figure it out?
Most of them were like chemical conference or medical conferences in Vegas. American medical. I don't know.
I won't be at the chemical medical conference in Las Vegas. Nope, I won't be there.
Maybe CME's. Sorry. Next question.
I don't know. I know there was an event, some sort of I don't know, some sort of like millionaire event or something last weekend. I don't know what it was, but it seemed like a lot of people I know and some friends were there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
I know which one you're talking about. Like, was Sean Whalen there?
Yeah, Sean was there and some of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw Instagram posts. I was like, oh, I wasn't invited. Assholes. Just joking. All right. Caleb McDaddy.
I wasn't invited either. So if that
makes me feel any better.
Yeah.
All right. Kind of a specific question.
Hold on. I got to go back to that.
Okay.
Because there's something we need to talk about here. There's this concept of fear of missing out. And that's these devices are so amazing. They're so
when you see this post, you're like, all these guys are like, oh, I had such a great time. You're like,
So here's what I would say, because it's easy to get trapped in this thing and like, oh, my buddies are doing this. And you said something, and I don't think you were taking it personally, but maybe you were. Maybe there's an element of truth to it, but I know people certainly do. Like, well, how come I didn't get invited? How come I didn't know about this? That happens all the time, even to me. And I tend to be pretty well connected, and I don't get invited to everything. I don't get backstage passes to all the things that I wish I would. But here's the deal. There's two things. Number one, you got to assert yourself. It's nobody else's responsibility to make sure you feel welcomed. Okay. So if you want to be at a thing, be at a thing. That's on you.
Can I add to this? This goes for you, the people that just moved into a new neighborhood.
Yeah, 100%
as well. Like this transcends just like other events. Like anyone that's complaining of not being involved in any circumstance, proceed.
Right. So initiative and being assertive is one. You want to be at a thing? Be at a thing. You didn't get an invite? Ask for an invite. Yep. The first conference that I ever went to when I started Order of Man was Menfluential, which was called StyleCon originally. And I reached out to Antonio Centeno and Aaron Marino. They're actually friends of mine now. Didn't know who they were, just followed them, liked what they did, reached out to him. And I talked to Antonio on the phone and I said, hey, I'd like to come to your event and I'd like to speak at the event. And he laughed. He's like, no, because he didn't know who I was. And he was right, of course, but why wouldn't I have the balls to ask that? Why wouldn't you do that? Whoop. Hold on, lost my earbud. So he said, but I'll tell you what, you come to the event, you introduce yourself, let's form a connection, let's see what we can do. And then I went on to speak it was either 3 or 4 of that event every year thereafter for 3 or 4 years. Because I asserted myself. It wasn't his responsibility to find Order of Man, this fledgling little stupid men's thing. It was my responsibility to assert myself. Okay, that's number one. Number two, this is, I think, even more important. Make your decisions and be comfortable with them. Okay, there's events that you can go to every day, all day, every weekend, every month. There's always something. There's some outing. There's some event. There's some party. There's some conference. There's some this. There's some that. Every day, all the time. And you have a decision to make. Do I go to that thing or do I not? And there's things that I think, well, I'd really like to go to that. And I don't for whatever reason. And I've learned to be okay with my decisions. I'm not going to feel shitty. I'm not going to feel bad for not being there. And if I am, then I'll make a better decision next year. But hey, I made the decision to be here. And here's one thing a lot of guys will do. They'll pawn their individual responsibility off on other people. Case in point, they'll say, well, I really would have liked to go to that event, but my kid has a soccer game this weekend. Screw you, asshole. You're going to blame your that kid. On your kid, on your own kid? How about you grow some balls and instead you say, I'd really like to go to that conference, but my child's soccer game is very important. So I won't be able to attend that thing because I'm going to be here with my son playing soccer. That's how a man would say that. Yeah. Well, guys, I'd really like to go hang out with you this weekend, but my wife, she says I have to be here around the house to work on projects. You effing asshole. Grow a spine, grow a backbone, grow some balls. Hey guys, I'd love to come with you this weekend. I can't do it because I committed to helping my wife around the house. But next week or next month, when you do it again, I'm going to clear the calendar. I'll be there. That's how a man responds to it.
Yeah. Instead of throwing your wife under the bus and illustrate that she's so domineering that you don't get to do anything in your life without her authorizing it first.
Exactly. So make your decisions and then be happy with them. Because also that's going to allow you to be present. Because if you're bitching and moaning about not being at the conference all weekend while your son's playing soccer and he's like looking over at the sideline and instead of being there at the game, you're on your phone and you're like, oh. And then when he's done with soccer, he scored 2 goals and he's like, Dad, did you see that? And you say, oh, hold on. And he knows you're looking at the conference that you wish you could be at. How do you think he's going to feel?
Yeah.
How do you think that makes you a good father or just a good man in general? So make your decisions and then be happy with them so that you can be present in whatever decision that you made. And if you don't like the decision, make a different one next time. But this is the decision you made this time.
Yeah.
Maybe I went a little too hard on that, but it is very, very important. This fear of missing out thing. It's hard. I get it. I understand it. There's some lessons here that need to be learned for all of us.
Yeah. Well, and one way when you're talking about, being good with your decision or feeling good about your decision, one of the things that comes to mind is, there's a price too, for everyone that's running around. That's like, oh, I'm always involved. What's the price? Like, even if it's a good deed, there's a price to that too. You can go out serving your neighborhood and neglect your family if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
But trust me, there's a price, right? So just be aware of what the price is so you can make the proper decision.
Yeah, because sometimes it's okay. You should pay the price. You should pay that.
Yeah.
But it's got to be intentional. It's got to be thoughtful. And you say to yourself, yeah, I am willing to pay that price.
Yeah.
I am willing to be away from the family for this particular hunt. Not all the hunts, but this one, yes. Not all the conferences, but this one, yes. I would like to go to this one. And therefore, I am going to miss little Timmy's baseball game, but I'm going to make the other 12 games. But this one, I'm not going to make because this is a choice that I am making.
Yeah, totally. All right. One more question.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sanji Grills, what is the best advice to give if you want to join the military, but don't want to leave your family behind? I'm 24 years old, considering joining the Canadian military. A lot of Canadian guys on this, but not sure if it's worth leaving the family to going away for 3 years.
Yeah, it's your life. This is what we're saying. That's the price. When I joined the military, I left my sister, my mother, and friends, and other opportunities and things I could have been doing for about 4.5 months. That's the price.
Yeah.
So say the very first sentence of that question again.
Best advice to give if you want to join the military, but do not want to leave your family behind.
It's not possible. You want to join the military, but not leave your family? Like, how do you see that working out? The advice is that's the price. You're either willing to pay it or you're not. But whatever decision you make, again, that's the decision. Be happy with that decision. And then don't blame, if you decide to stick around because you want to be around your family, don't blame them that you didn't choose the military route.
Totally.
If you want to go into the military, don't blame the military for not being around your family. That's a decision as a man that you made. So my advice is, if that is what you want to do, then you should do that, and you should pay the price in order to have that experience, learn that lesson, follow that pursuit. By the way, what do you think your family would want? Think they'd want to have you there forever and not chase and pursue your dreams and see the world and travel the country and serve? Like, you think that's what they would want? I don't think so. I mean, maybe there's a percentage of people, but I don't think generally that's what your family would want. Talk to them about it. Tell them, hey guys, here's my concerns. I don't want to leave you guys. I'm worried about grandma. She's sick. Or, I'm worried about, little brother because him and I have been together, and like, these are my concerns and I want to go do this. They're going to say, we want you to chase this. We want you to pursue this. And that might give you some comfort.
Yeah. And your advice earlier around the firefighter and the police officer, trying to make that decision, going 20 years ahead of now and looking back, and what decision do you wish you would make? That's a great strategy, maybe even for this guy here.
Right. This goes back. This is good. I mean, because it falls right in line with what we're talking about, decision making. It's hard. If it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be a decision. You'd have already made it and you wouldn't be asking about it. But it's hard because both options present valid points. You need to communicate with them, and you need to be willing to pay the price. You need to know what the price is and be willing to pay it. Regardless of what you choose, there's a price. You have to be willing to pay it, and then live with it and deal with it, and know that it was you. So don't blame other people or other situations for you making your own decisions as a man.
Yeah. And you not making a decision is making a decision.
It's staying with your family. You don't make a decision. You're staying with your family. That's the decision. You can call it whatever you want, but that's the decision you made.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Great questions today.
Yeah. So now I'm supporting the OG Order Man shirt.
I'm thinking about bringing some of those back because I actually kind of like that.
I like it. I keep it. I wear it.
It actually looks like it's in pretty good condition. That's what I was going to say. Like, it's in pretty good condition.
I don't wear it very often.
You don't roll with that thing.
No. However, we do have some more shirts. Store.orderofman.com. Design your mind. Or what's the new shirts?
This one is
make a way.
I will either find a way.
Find a way.
Make one.
Yeah, I like it. And some tank tops as well.
Yeah, we have this one in maroon and black with white, and then we have our new like raw edge tank tops, which are really cool. So you can work out, you can go to the beach, hang around in the house, and look good while you're doing it.
Good. So you can find that swag and much more at store.orderofman.com. And as always, to learn more about the Iron Council and to join us in our exclusive brotherhood, go to orderofman.com/Iron Council. As always, connect with Mr. Mickler on the Insta at Ryan Mickler.
That's right.
Do it.
All right, guys. Thanks for your questions. Great questions today. Gave us a chance to get fired up. I think Kip's feeling a little better.
Yeah. Yep.
We got him through that. Thank you guys for helping me do that. Because I knew Kip too. Come on now. I knew as soon as I got on the call with you, I was looking instantly at my emails.
He's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. I was looking at my emails. I wasn't even looking at you. I was looking at my emails, and just the way you said, hey, or hi, or whatever. I was like, something's up.
I can't hide it, man. I wear my emotions on my sleeves. It's pretty obvious when I'm, off.
I actually like that. Because, my wife accuses me of that all the time too. It's like, like if we're out in public and she's like, why are you being such a jerk? I'm like, I'm not being a jerk. I'm just sitting here. She's like, yeah, but your face, like the way you're looking at people.
What's wrong with your face? Yeah.
Like at a restaurant, she's like, why are you mad? I'm like, I'm not mad. She's like, you were looking at the waitress so mean. I'm like, I was just looking at her, but she knows, man, because I wear it right on there on my expressions and everything else. So anyways, I think Kip's feeling better. Guys, appreciate you. We'll be back. We just released the episode with John Eldridge, which was yesterday. And then, of course, we'll be back on Friday for the Friday Field Notes. But until then, go out there, take action, become the man you are meant to be.